Bletstein. I'll be doing this project with Aidan Motti, Winston Ledger, and Jack Carlanzoli. And for our post-World War II conflict, we're doing the Partition of India. So just getting into it to start, we just have the table of contents. We'll be doing for our first one, conflict briefing. For our second one, we'll do cause and effects. Third one, we'll do change and continuity. For our fourth slide, we'll do media analysis. And for our fifth slide, we'll do standout moments. So for like our first real slide of content, I'll be covering the conflict briefing. So during this conflict, it was involved with the British Empire, the Indian National Congress, for short, the INC. This was led by figures like Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi. The All India Muslim League, led by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and other Muslims, Sikhs, and Hindus. So specifically, what was like the partition of India for short? It was the division of British India into two independent dominions, India and Pakistan. This took place in British India, and this happened during 1947 and 1948. And the reason why was, or the two reasons why, were religious divisions and colonial policies. And then I'll just get into my standout moment. So for my standout moment, I just did the British decision to partition, which happened in June 1947. This is when the British government decided to divide India into two nations, which were India and Pakistan, due to the rising unrest and the leading, which led to the chaotic and violent split.
Great. Thank you for that. And so, great. Thank you for that. So now for the cause and the effects of the partition of India. For the first cause, we have religious polarization. The deep mistrust between Hindus and Muslims amplified the British policies and fear of marginalization, which led to the demand for separate nations. The second one, competing nationalisms. The Indian National Congress pushed for a unified, secular India, while Muslim League argued for Muslim sovereignty, fearing dominance in a Hindu majority state. Thirdly, the British haste. Britain's rapid withdrawal, driven by post-World War II challenges, led to poorly planned borders and insufficient measures to manage the transition. Now for the effects, the first one we have is mass migration. Around 15 million people were displaced, resulting in chaos, loss of homes, and the largest forced migration in history. 2. Communal violence. Over 1 million deaths and widespread atrocities occurred during riots, massacres, and attacks on vulnerable groups. Thirdly, enduring hostility. India and Pakistan's relations were marred by territorial disputes, particularly over Kashmir, leading to wars in ongoing territories. And lastly, for standout moments, for me, I thought the biggest standout moment was the Kashmir conflict. It began in October 1947 and is ongoing to this day. The princely state of Kashmir's decision to join India led to the first Indo-Pakistani War, and the region remains a flashpoint for conflict between the two countries to this day. So yeah, definitely a standout moment for me.
So now I'll be talking about the continuities and changes. So for one, religious tensions. So the partition divided people based on religion, but it didn't solve any issues. So the same mistrust and violence between the two sides kept happening, and is still happening today. Second, Kashmir conflict. So the fight over Kashmir started during the partition, and neither India or Pakistan has solved it, and so it continues to cause problems and be a problem. The third one, political rivalry. India and Pakistan have been enemies since the partition, and their disagreements and conflicts have really never stopped. The fourth, impact on minorities. Minorities on both sides, Pakistan and India, have were unsafe during this partition and have been treated unfairly and face unfair treatment and violence even now. Some of the changes is the creation of Bangladesh. So East Pakistan split from Pakistan in 1971 to become Bangladesh, which created a new country. The second one, mass migration. Over 10 million people were forced to move between their homes and between India and Pakistan, leaving their homes based on their religion due to this partition. The third one, territorial disputes. So, because of the new borders, it led to fights over land, like the Kashmir conflict, which didn't exist before the partition. And then the fourth one is economic challenges. So, because the partition divided land and new industries and resources, it made it harder for both sides, India and Pakistan, to rebuild their economies. Then my standout moment is the mass migration and communal violence. I chose this as a standout moment because I think it's really sad that over 10 million people had to leave their homes, split with their families, often walking with days without food or not knowing if they're gonna make it out alive. So I think it's really sad that based on your religion you had to go through this, and that you weren't even safe in your own country, and you had the fear of getting killed or attacked. So I picked that as my standout moment. Thank you.
Media analysis. So I'm going to be covering the Gandhi movie. This film highlights the mass violence, displacement, and communal tension during the partition. A key scene shows the brutal violence between Hindus, Muslims, and the Sikhs as people attempt to cross the newly drawn borders of India and Pakistan. The film highlights the bloodshed with scenes of families being massacred, women being raped, and people murdered in the streets. Gandhi's shock and horror are emphasized as he watches this unfold, reinforcing the personal and emotional toll of the partition. Gandhi's fasts are shown as a response to the violence, particularly when he fasts to stop the fighting between Hindus and Muslims in Calcutta. This is one of his strategies for peace, attempting to use his non-violent philosophy to persuade people to stop the killing. The film presents Mountbatten's role in the partition as overly simplistic, implying that the decision to partition was made by him rather than by the British government earlier. Critics argue the British divide and rule policy is not fully explored as a cause of the violence. Standout moments. So one standout moment is the assassination of Gandhi, actually, which happened in 1948, January. Gandhi, who had advocated for peace and Hindu-Muslim unity, was assassinated by a Hindu nationalist, marking the tragic failure of his vision for nonviolence.